Hi, my name is Cindy Rang with the Fabric Patching Free of Washington, and I'm just going to give you a quick tutorial on how to make these fun little door caddies. All right, so I'm going to show you how to make these quick little door caddies super fast. Basically, it is 4 10-inch squares, 2 for the inside, 2 for the outside, and just a little, I think this was 2 inches by 12-inch strip for a little handle. So the way that I use these is you can certainly hang them on any doorknob for anything that you want to remember before you take outside. You can throw your keys in there, you can throw your sunglasses in there. If you want to put extra sunglasses on a back door, if you want to put mail in there for a little mail caddy for a doorknob on your office, anything that you'd like. They're kind of fun to make. What I use it for is a garbage can in my car. I don't like putting my garbage in my little cubby because in my door because it gets forgotten there. And so instead I can just hang this on my little gear shift. It hangs down and then I can pull it up and empty it as often as I need to. What's kind of nice is to for your lining, for it to be something that's maybe a little bit plasticized. You can pick anything you want for the outside. I also tend to use quilter's fabric so that it's always washable. And once you've made one and you kind of understand that really simple construction, you can make them any size you want. You can go ahead and make it a little bit taller if you'd like. You can make it a little bit shorter, chubbier if you like. It doesn't really matter. One thing I want to mention is this really cool faux leather that is so much fun to sew with. And so that, of course, is this stuff. It's made by Sally Tomato. Pretty inexpensive. It's about $12 for a piece that is 18 by 24. And so it's about this big. It is polyester, looks like leather. The only tricks to sewing it is that you want to kind of keep your iron away from it, and you might want a little bit larger stitch length because of the thickness of it. But you can throw it in the washer, throw it in the dryer. It comes out looking just great, easy to use for your entire construction for your bag, or just use a little bit of it and add some stripes. So kind of a fun little product. What we're going to do today though is we're just going to do some stuff out of our stash. So I've got 2 10-inch squares of some fun cafe fabric that will be my exterior, and I have just 2 solid pieces that are going to be my interior. So whenever I use cotton for a bag, I tend to like to stabilize it just a little bit. So my favorite product is the 911 FF. It's just what I prefer. It's a Pellon product and it's a fusible interfacing. It's a featherweight interfacing. So you barely notice that it's there, but it's enough that it gives some body to your cotton. So it really gives you that long lasting, sturdy feel. If you have a different sort of an interfacing that you like, then that's fine, but I just probably wouldn't use a wash away or a tear away, something that's really going to be permanent. So anyway, so I have those 4 pieces, and then I also have a piece that my measurement is 2 inches by 12 inches, but that is to go ahead and get, thank you, a cord that's that long. So if you then want to change that up a little bit, but keep in mind that if you're going to put it on a doorknob or something, you might think that you don't want a very big one, but then of course you can't hang it everywhere you want to, because your other option is to go ahead and make a big one. And if you find that you're going to put it on a command hook or on a coat hook, just tie a little knot in it. And then that way you have the opportunity to have a small hook as well as a large hook. So this particular measurement is 2 inches by 12 inches. And if I didn't mention this before, I do have a written pattern for you. And it's attached below, just a free download. You can go ahead and print that off if you would just like the little written directions. But you might want to watch this and kind of take some notes just to make sure that when I say inside or long side or short side, that it kind of all makes sense. So this is just the double fold method. So all you're going to do is take this 2-inch piece, you're going to fold it and put a crease in it. Once you've put that crease in it, I'm just going to fold the edges into that crease right there, iron it again, fold it over, and that is why it's called a double fold method. You can see that it sort of looks like that. And so that's why it's called a double fold, is because it's pressed in. Let me press it really fast and I'll show you. Okay, so I've pressed this and now all I'm going to do is I like to sew down both sides. So I sew all the way down one, up the other, so that I have everything all sewn together. It not only holds the fold in place, but it also adds that little bit more stability. I'm going to show you on this one so you can see that it just really looks nice and thick. See that? And it's not, you know, you have to go crazy about it, but just kind of holds everything in place. And then we're going to set this aside for a second. Okay, so we'll set that aside, and then let's talk about your pieces. So your pattern says that your two outside pieces are two 10-inch squares. And from your inside 10-inch squares, you're actually going to cut an inch off of one side to make this a 10-inch by 9-inch square. The reason for that is that then when we sew everything together, that gives this magical little binding. Because what's happened now is the outside is a little bit bigger than the inside, so it folds over. You do this little top stitch while you stitch in the ditch, and it gives this faux binding, really nice little finished look. And that's the way that your pattern is written. However, I'm just going to mention, if for some reason you want to reverse that and you want to cut your outside down to 9 inches, just take 1 inch off of the outside edge so that it's 9 inches by 10 inches, leave this 10 inches by 10 inches. Then what will happen, of course, is your lining will come out, and your lining will give this little faux binding edge on the outside of your bag. Doesn't matter. Whichever one you prefer, doesn't make any difference. You get to decide. But either way, I'm going to make a decision, and I'm going to keep these two at 10 inches, and I'm going to cut my lining. I'm going to cut 1 inch off so that I have two lining pieces that are 9 inches by 10 inches. Okay, so I have my two 10 by 10 for my outside. I have my 9 by 10, which is going to be my lining. You might be a little bit different. And here is my little strip. You can see I just went ahead and sewed my little edges on there. So what I'm going to do first is I have to put my strip down and just decide. It totally doesn't matter. I mean, maybe it'll matter to you. Maybe you want to do some fun machine embroidery, or you want to do something else on it, or put some other little extra pocket, whatever else you want to do. So if you know which is your front and your back, for me, I'm just going to make a little crease right there. And then I'm going to take my little handle, and I prefer to keep them fairly close together like this. It just seems to work out best for me, so that that's my little hanger. If you feel like you want to experiment with that, you can. But for me personally, I make my little crease, put that right up there together, and then I'm going to go ahead and fold this over. I'm going to go ahead and pin that, take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew this edge, and then I'm going to sew this edge, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've went ahead and sewn these. Don't worry about this. This looks a little bit funny. You feel like you're going to want to stabilize that, and you will in another step down the line, so no worries. But now what we're going to do is we're going to mark where our little box bottom is going to be. So all you have to do is take your ruler and square this up. On our particular bag, I'm just going to show you. This is a 2-inch box bottom, which gives you this 4-inch almost square bottom. So the way that a box bottom works is if you feel like you would like it to be smaller, if you go to 1.5 inches, that would give you a 6-inch bottom. So you can kind of play with that a little bit. You just want it to be equal all the way around. For your pattern and for our bag today, we are cutting 2-inch squares. But again, once you've made this bag once, you can modify it however you'd like to. Now, some people are crafty enough that they can lay this ruler out and just cut it with their rotary cutter. I always feel like I cut extra and beyond where I'm supposed to. So what I do instead is I just mark it with a fabric appropriate marker. In this case, it's a friction marker. And then I cut it with my scissors. And so now all I'm going to do, and I've done this with my inside lining, and I've done it with my outside. So now I'm just going to take my scissors, and ever so carefully, I'm just going to cut out my squares. And then I'll be right back. Okay, all my little squares are cut out, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over right sides together, and I'm going to sew all the way around. However, I'm going to leave open I'm really just going to kind of tack this, maybe sew about an inch back stitch here, sew about an inch back stitch, and I'm going to leave this open because after we do our box bottoms, we're going to turn everything right side out. So I'm going to go to my sewing machine though, and I'm going to sew here, 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 and a little bit right there, and I'll be right back. All right, so I've done all of that. I've left this open, and so now it's time to do our box bottoms. If you're familiar with box bottoms, oh, they're just like the best thing ever, because all you're going to do is you've cut out this little square, and you're just going to take this point, flatten this out. You're going to go ahead and lock those seams the way that you normally would, and then you're just going to sew that. I do back stitch here, sew across, and back stitch here just to make sure that everything stays the way that it's supposed to. You just have that nice crisp little corner. I'm going to do that all 4 corners. Here they are, cute little box bottoms, and you can see that's where they're called that because then, and you can again see that that was my 2-inch, and that's what makes that 4-inch there. And you can kind of easily do the math and modify and make this in whatever size you'd like. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to open this tiny little hole that I have left, and I'm going to pull everything through that hole. All right, and then once it's through, then we're going to close this up. And I'm not super fussy about it. I'm just going to go ahead and fold that in and top stitch that. Sometimes I'll hand stitch it depending upon who I'm giving it to. For the moment though, just for us to continue, I'm just going to go ahead and tuck it in. So then as I tuck it in, what you will see is that, so my inside, that automatically, look at that cute little binding right there that happened. Yes. Ah, isn't that cute? So, and that could be on the inside or the outside. So then, now here's your little hanger right here. So that's why, see, I'm just going to fold that up. I'm going to lay that down, take my little clip that I have and hold that exactly where I want it. And then you can see that then what will happen is as I stitch in the ditch along here, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put one other tiny little top stitch. And you can probably, can you zoom in, Brianna, and show them right there? See where I kind of stitched in the ditch right there, and then I just went ahead and put an extra little, and also I probably should have mentioned this, but when I was sewing this on that very first stitch, I did back stitch quite a bit. I tend to be that person that will overfill every basket bigger than it needs to be. So, and I'm going to also show you a special foot. All right, this is a stitch in the ditch foot. We only have them for FAF machines because that's what we sell, but I'm sure that whatever machine you sew on, it probably has a similar thing. If you have a FAF, you don't have one of these, check this out. So what this is when you put this foot on, see that little thing right there? What happens is that as you're sewing, that little blade will magically ride that ditch right in between where you're sewing, so you cannot jump out of that line, even if you tried. So it's really, really nice. It's one of the feet that I use most often. So that's all I'm going to do to finish this is I'm just going to come along. I'm going to stitch in the ditch. What that'll do is that will cement down that nice little binding. And on this side, I'll have a nice little stitch line that you'll see that'll be perfect because it followed that line. And it will also then secure that. Here is my cutie patootie little door caddy made out of 4 10-inch squares. So anyway, have fun. Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to leave a comment, hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. You can also visit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest pages, or find all of those things and our online store at fabricpatch.net.